So, welcome to the Love Pod, everyone. We're really fortunate to have you here. Today, we have a special guest, Michael Watson. Michael, we understand you have a message that is really important to share with the whole world. And we're just so excited to have you here. Dealing with the court system is one of the things that many families can struggle with. And we understand that you have an important story to share as well as an important message here for our viewers. So, yeah, before we dive in, how are you today? And yeah,
I'm
yeah,
I'm great, thank you, and so much for having. Thank you so much for having me. Yeah, I'm looking forward to sharing my message and my story with yourself and with all your audience.
that's amazing. That's amazing. We were just talking earlier before we jumped on here, the importance of the story, and I think that's a really good place to start because often it's stories that land people into court situations. I recently had something. We don't have to get into that, but I'm happy to talk about it too. And I can say from firsthand experience that it's very intimidating going to an environment where the language, the rules, everything is so different. So, what
Yeah,
brought you to devoting your life to helping people in these situations? Do you want to tell us a little bit about yourself?
yes, I will. I'm a professionally qualified social worker, and I've been a professionally qualified social worker for over 30 years. Now, when I first started as a social worker, I had a very difficult case. I was about 3 or 4 years into being a social worker, and this case was I didn't know how I was inexperienced in those terms in that respect in those years, and I was allocated a case which involved a little girl and her parents,
Mm.
and there was a history to the case, but basically whenever I would go to see the family, I very quickly realized I didn't like seeing the family. I didn't
Mm.
like going there.
Mm.
It wasn't that I didn't want to see this little girl, but it was that I didn't want to see the parents because the parents detested me.
Mm.
At the time, I was young, I was inexperienced, and one of my weaknesses was that I liked to be liked. I thought, wouldn't it be nice to be liked? Wouldn't it be It's not like that. It
Mm.
wasn't like
Yeah.
that. And so it was difficult to and uncomfortable, difficult and uncomfortable having that type of relationship, having to go to see them because when I'd go to see them, they would make it clear they couldn't stand me.
Yeah.
So I had I had to kind of deal with that in as best I could, because my focus was working with the child and safeguarding the child.
Mhm.
Um, but when I went there, well, I'm going to put it to you this way. I'm someone that I love warm days. I love sunny days. And on sunny days, I always feel grand. I feel, even if I'm not in a good mood, if the sun's shining, I feel good. This particular day, the sun was shining, and I didn't feel good, and I
Mm.
knew it's because I had to go and see this family.
Mm.
But I didn't have an option, so I made my way to where the family lived, and I went up in the lift. They lived in the highest block of flats. Got outside the lift, and I went and I knocked on their door. The mother came, sneered at me, and didn't about turn and just went straight back inside. That's the way she habitually treated me. But as I stepped through this threshold into this flat, it was like stepping into a different world, a totally different world. You see, outside the sun was shining, it was bright, it was warm, it was
Mm.
glorious, and it was light. Inside this flat, it was dark, it was cold, it was eerie. It was a type of place where the hairs on your back of your neck stick up.
Yeah.
The flat itself was a shell. I felt like I'd stepped in some kind of horror story. The carpets, the wallpaper was torn, the carpets was ripped. The place didn't stink, but it didn't smell particularly pleasant.
Mm.
The parents were over one side of the room, not talking to me, huddled together, whispering.
Mm.
When I spoke with them, the best I get is a grunt or a groan. Father never looked at me. The mother would look at me, but she always had a perpetual snarl as if she was just about ready to attack me at any moment. The only person who gave me any degree of welcome was this 3-year-old little girl.
Mm.
She was always in a playpen. She was always, every time I went there, she was in a playpen, holding onto the rails like that. And it made me think,
Oh,
that's this little girl's prison,
yeah.
because she's always there. And there are just a number of things I remember about this little girl. She always looked a bit grubby. Her hair looked like her blonde hair looked like it needed washing and combing. Her clothes always had stains in them. I could always remember when I looked at her face, you could see the tear stains where the tears had rolled down her cheeks and were now
Oh.
mingling with the snot in between the nose and her mouth.
Hmm.
And this little girl was always looking at me, not looking at her parents, just at me. That never made sense. Never made sense to me in any shape or form. It
Hmm.
was a weird situation. But, and it never made sense. But one day, it was just an ordinary day like any other day. One morning, I was on my way to work, except I was later than usual. I remember feeling a bit anxious that my manager was going to have a go at me. But when I got into work, my manager's door was shut. And I was quite pleased about that, because I thought, okay, she can't have a go at me. Then she's busy. So I went to my desk. I sat down and I started working. About half an hour later, my manager's door opened and she looked out into the office. 5 minutes later, she called me and I thought, oh God, there we go. She's gonna have a go at me now. But when I got inside her room, she was just sitting there staring out the window, as if something was drawing her attention outside. We sat in silence for several long moments. Finally, she said to me, still looking outside, she said, "You're lucky. Your career's just started. Mine is at an end.
Hmm.
You'll get over this, but I never will." What was she talking about? I didn't know what she was talking about. That's when she mentioned the little girl's name
Hmm.
and told me she'd been brutally murdered that morning by her
Oh
father.
my God. Wow. Oh my goodness.
And what that meant for me, amongst other
Hmm.
things, was that I was going to have to give an account of myself.
Hmm.
I was going to have to give the account, explain what work I had done and work I hadn't done with this child to keep her safe. And chief amongst the people I'd have to give this account to was the courts. Now, I'd never been to court before. I didn't know what to expect. It
Hmm.
was totally new to me. But I knew enough, just from the way the people around me were behaving, nervously, anxiously, that it wasn't going to be pleasant. It wasn't going to be a walk in the park at all. I also remember in that time, it's like there was this big, dark, heavy cloud just above my head, just waiting to come down on me.
Hmm.
That big, dark, heavy cloud represented court, something I wanted to get away from, something I wanted desperately to get away from, but I knew I couldn't. As I said, I had to go to court. And I went to a court in London. It's a well-known court in London in the Strand. It's called the Royal Courts of Justice. When you get there from the outside, it looks like picture a big stone cathedral. It looks like a big
Hmm.
stone cathedral from the outside. But when you get inside there, the first thing that hit me, just how cold it was. It was
Hmm.
freezing in that court, because there's a big stone building with a big area with lots of different courts.
Okay.
But it wasn't just cold in terms of the atmosphere, in terms of the temperature. I mean, it was cold in terms of the atmosphere as well. Courts aren't pleasant places. They're places of conflict. They're toxic places.
Hmm.
Eventually, I found found the court I was meant to be in. When I got there, I was placed in the witness box. Now, I don't know about you. I don't know about your audience, but if you've ever been placed somewhere that you don't want to be at by someone in control or in authority over you, well, you've got an idea how I felt.
Hmm.
Actually, I felt trapped. I didn't want to be there at all. And whilst I was in this witness box that I didn't want to be in, I'm being asked these horrible, horrible questions by these barristers. These barristers had flipped the script. These barristers were saying it's all my fault. This child's death was all my fault. It's all my responsibility. It's all down to me. If only I'd have done this, if only I'd have done that, this child would still be alive as far as they were concerned. So at a time when I was traumatized, at a time when I felt guilty, at a time when I was experiencing loss, and I wasn't prepared emotionally, psychologically, or professionally for answering these questions, that's the time I was being asked these horrible, horrible questions. I couldn't answer. I couldn't answer them. I didn't know how to deflect them. I didn't know how to deal with them. I just wasn't prepared and skilled enough to deal with them.
Yeah.
But these questions were coming in thick and fast. In fact, they were like darts being hurled across the room at me. And I was like this massive dartboard that they couldn't fail but hit. Now, were they hitting me physically? No. And were they hurting me physically? Again, no. But psychologically and emotionally, I was in the most intense pain and agony. And I was in so much pain that I was in denial. I was thinking, this has got to be a dream. This has got to be a nightmare that I'm in. But I kept trying to pinch and kick myself because I wanted to wake up. But I wasn't waking up. And the pain was continuing. And at one point, I was in so much pain that I looked up from the witness box and I looked around the room and I was thinking, there's got to be someone here who can help me. There's got to be someone here who's got a heart. Someone here must be able to help me. But as I looked around the room, I didn't see anyone with a heart. I didn't see anyone who was willing to help me. All I saw was cold, hard stares and glares looking back at me. And I realized at that moment that there was no one to come to help me. I was on my own. And as that realization dawned on me, I thought of this little girl because she was on her own. And you know what else dawned on me at that stage? What dawned on me is that she was hoping, begging, wishing, pleading that someone was going to come and help her. And you know who she was wanting to come and help her? None other than me. And that's why she wasn't looking at her mum or her dad or anywhere else around the room. She wasn't looking at her parents because she knew they weren't going to help her. She knew they were the people who were harming her. She was looking at me because I was her one hope that she'd be saved. Only I couldn't save her because I didn't understand what her silent expressions and facial and body language were trying to convey to me. I wasn't skilled enough. I wasn't experienced enough. I wasn't well enough attuned to her needs. So I wasn't able to save her. And that would stay with me for the rest of my days. Now, there are some similarities between what was going on for her and what was going on for me. We were both trapped in our respective prisons. Her in her playpen, me in the witness box. Both hoping, begging, pleading, wishing, begging for someone to come and save us. But you know, we're hoping and begging and wishing and pleading in vain because no one was to come to save her because I was the only person who could potentially have saved her and I wasn't able to at the time. And no one was come to save me because I'm in the witness box. I'm meant to be on my own. I just didn't realize it at the time. But that is where the similarities end. Because what this little girl went through was a million times worse than what I went through in the witness box. I can only begin to imagine the depth of horror this poor child was exposed to at such a young age. But what I can tell you, without a word of a lie, is that what I went through that day, in that court, in that witness box, I wouldn't wish on my worst enemy ever. I don't know how long it went on for. The barrister would keep asking me questions, and all I could do is open my mouth, and no words of wisdom would fall out. I was just stuttering and stammering, looking like a complete fool. As I say, it could have gone on for an hour, it could have been 2 hours, it could have been longer than 2 hours. I don't know. I have no knowledge. I can't tell you how long it went on for. All I can tell you is that 5 minutes when you're in absolute agony feels like a lifetime.
Hmm.
Eventually, the judge looked at me, stared at me, sneered at me, and just dismissed me. When that happened, I wanted to run a million miles away from court. I never want to see the inside of a court ever again.
Hmm.
But something stopped me. Something stopped me at that stage and said, no, Michael, that's not what you're going to do. You are not going to run away. You're going to go back to court again and again and again. You're going to go back to court. Do you know why? You're going to go back to court because what happened to you today, you were never going to allow to happen to you ever again.
Mm.
And that exactly what I did. I went back to court till I got good at giving evidence. Went back to court until I was able to write a book about giving evidence.
Wow.
I couldn't save this little girl. It was too late. But I can save an awful lot of other people from going through even a minute experience that
Hmm.
was anything like mine. Because my voice, I found my voice and it had changed.
Mm.
And I was able to, I was no longer waiting and hoping that someone was going to come and save me. I knew that I had to save myself. So I can go on from there and tell you about my 5-step system, but I thought I might take a break because you might want to ask me some
Yeah.
other things.
Yeah, absolutely. I thank you for sharing such a touching, profound, and felt story. You're truly a storyteller, Michael. You have a gift at you know drawing people into an experience, and it's my heart goes out to you and that little girl, and also to the perpetrator and family of such a brutal act. Clearly is in lower states of poverty consciousness, and on some level must be tormented. And like Light Heart Vision is all about reaching for a higher vision collectively. Like we see parenting as I think we heard it first from Dr. Shafali. He talks about like parenting is about doing your inner work as a parent so that you can be the spiritual partner in your child's development. So that really is the message. So yeah, we'd love to hear more about how you've clearly gone through such a transformation and used such a poignant point of pain to find that resilience and to use it to be of service. So,
Yeah,
yeah, please let us know about how you're helping families now and kind of in contrast to where life is for you now.
right. Um, Thank you for that. What I should say is that over the years, because it was many years. I mean, there were many years. In fact, I never talked about the death of the child. Um, Even now, when I talk, so it's only the last year or so I've been talking about it, but every now and again, when I talk about it, it brings tears to my eyes. It's cathartic in some ways because for a long time I didn't talk about it. A long time I didn't feel comfortable talking about it. I was frightened to talk about it. I was embarrassed to talk about it. I was ashamed to talk about it.
Mm.
Embarrassed. So for many years, I'd say for over 30 years, I never talked about it. Um, and then I took up public speaking, and that was last a year or two ago. And then
Hmm.
from that time onwards, that's what I've spoken about. That's I'm excuse me, I'm prepared to share that now with the world because I know it's a story the world needs to hear, and
Hmm.
the impact it can have on a lot of people. I, as I said, I didn't talk about it for a long time because I was traumatized for
Mm.
that period of time, that length of time, which is a long time.
It's a very long
um,
time. Yeah.
and what happened then is that when I started speaking about it, I realized that I there were things that I was doing that helped me to not only help myself but help others. Because I eventually because I pushed myself back into doing that work. I forced myself back into doing something that terrified me.
Mm.
And then I went on to do, become an expert in the courts, in childcare and in care proceedings. And then I wrote my book. And then after writing my book last year, I developed a system, a 5-step system, which was initially a 4-step system. It's now a 5-step system. These things develop, as I'm
Of
sure you
course.
know.
Yeah.
And that 5-step system is for me what enables me to help other people, not just in court, but through any traumatic experience that what people go through. And I'll just tell you a little bit about my 5-step system. My 5-step system enables people to get the best outcome from court. It also enables people to get the best outcome from any traumatic experience.
Amazing.
So it's called CALM,
Mm.
CALMM, double M. Yeah, CALMM.
Okay.
Now, the first step in the system begins with letter C. And believe it or not, it's for calm, because you've got to be calm and you've got to be in control of yourself when you're giving evidence at court. You cannot give evidence. You can't explain yourself if you're angry
Mm-hmm.
and upset and
Mm-hmm.
distressed. Just can't do it, because your brain, that part of your brain that you need to be able to be creative, be able to explain things,
Mm-hmm.
is disconnected from you. You're
Yes.
disconnected from that part of your brain when you're angry and upset. So being calm and in control of yourselves and your behavior and your thoughts and your emotions is the first step, and it's so important. Second step begins with letter A, and A stands for attitude. You have to have a fantastic attitude when you're giving evidence to court. It doesn't matter how you're feeling about yourself. Doesn't matter how the judge is treating you. Doesn't matter how the barrister is treating you. You've got to have a fantastic attitude if you want to give great evidence at court and give yourself the best chance of getting the result that you want and need. Attitude is so important. So that is super important, that attitude. The third step begins with letter L, and L stands for listening. You have to be able to listen. And listening is such a key skill. Maybe if I'd have been a better listener at the time, maybe I'd have, even though this little girl wasn't talking, maybe I'd have been able to, not just listening to her, but listening to me, because things were happening to me, but I just didn't know how to read them.
Mm.
I didn't know
Yeah.
what was going on. Yeah. Maybe I'd have been able to recognize, because if I hated going there so much, what is it like for this little girl living there with these people 24
Mm-hmm.
hours a day?
Mm-hmm.
But you see, it was one of the valuable lessons I learned from that is this: when we assess people, when we look at people, and we try and understand who they are, we try to understand them based on who we are.
Mm-hmm.
If you don't have an understand, you make assumptions based on the person that you are.
Mm-hmm.
If
Mm-hmm.
you couldn't do something, you kind of think sometimes that person, you kind of don't even think about that other person could do those sort of things, because you're just not
Mm-hmm.
on that level. You're just not
Yeah.
thinking about
Yeah.
that. But that was a very serious lesson. It's a very serious omission on my part not to realize that they could do that kind of thing. I couldn't do that. I could never do that. So I couldn't perceive that someone else would do that, especially to their child. I just couldn't see it. But that's a lesson I had to learn, and lots of people have to learn that
That's a
painful
big
lesson.
one. That's a big
Yeah.
one, Michael. Yeah.
So where was I? I'm trying to remember where I
You were
was
talking
now.
about listening. So you have two
Yeah. So
M's left.
yeah. So listening is so important, and you have to listen to yourself. And sometimes, the question is, who do you listen to from who do you not listen to? Well, when you go to court, you have to listen to the judge, because the judge will tell you what to do, and the judge may ask you a question or two. You definitely have to listen to barristers, because if you can't listen, you can't answer the questions. You can't answer the questions. You can't give good evidence. And if you can't give good evidence, the chances of you getting the outcome you want are slim to non-existent.
Mm.
So listening is such an important skill that you have to develop when you're giving evidence and when you're wanting to give the best evidence. That's the third step in the 5-step system. The fourth step begins with letter M, and M stands for mindful. You see, when you give evidence, you can't just blurt out the first thing that comes to you. You have to think about that, the way you're going to answer that question. So if you're going to court in relation to your child, you have to give evidence that is in your child's best interest, that's consistent with what's in your child's best interest. And that's obviously in your child's best interest, so that the judge is in agreement with it. You have to give evidence which is consistent with the other evidence, both verbal and written, that you've said in the proceedings. And you have to give evidence which is of a consistently high quality, so that the judge values it more highly than anyone else, any other witnesses. So when you can do that, you're doing very well. That's the fourth step in the 5-step system. The fifth and final step begins with M also, and that stands for mastery. And when you've developed mastery over the other 4 steps of the system, being calm and in control, having a great attitude, being able to listen and being mindful, that's when you're in the position to give the very best evidence possible, and you maximize your chance of getting the result you want at court. Now, everyone goes through concerns, worries, anxieties about giving evidence. There's no one that doesn't go through those concerns and worries and anxieties. We all have fears, we all have doubts. What I want to remind you and others is that if you follow that 5-step system, it doesn't just work for me. It's worked over many years. It works for anyone because it's a system. If you follow the system and do the work that's linked with it, that's included in it, then you'll get the very best results. Now, when should you do that? When should you do this work? Well, the best time to do it was yesterday.
Yeah.
The next best time to do it is right here now, today. Because what I want to remind you, and I want to remind your audience, is that when you get into that witness box, you're on your own. You can't call a friend. You can't dial anyone and ask their help. I found that out over 30 years ago. There's no one you can call. You are on your own. So you have to have done this work well in advance. You have to have learned what you needed to learn well in advance. Otherwise, you're going to be in the witness box on your own, highly stressed, highly anxious.
Yeah.
So there are a number of skills, competencies, and experiences you need to learn to develop well before you get in that witness box.
Yeah, it's interesting you say this, and obviously you've related to the witness box because this is where this all originated for you, Michael. But I can clearly see how all of these practices leading to mastery of all of these practices are, like you said, important for dealing with life in general, and I would say even obviously for dealing with trauma, which there's lots of perspectives on on that, and that we are hopefully letting go of an old paradigm that is based in a sick society and moving towards a much more a much brighter era. That's what we believe, as we enter this new shift in consciousness on our planet. And I see this as a preventative tool as well that can be practiced, and I think you make it really relatable to people. It's an easy acronym to remember. So thanks for that. I love acronyms. I've got a lot of them myself. So that's really good. I was wondering, can we maybe go through each one of these? I have a few questions for you, if you don't
Sure,
mind, kind of to
sure,
dig
no
in.
problem. Yeah.
And maybe before I ask you the questions, I one of the things you might not be aware of is that Lightheart Vision is founded on some higher spiritual principles, most of which we found through Christ's letters that were written starting in the year 2000, where he outlines his like autobiography of life, and there's parallels. Why I'm bringing that up here is because a lot of what he talked about, the first thing you mentioned, calm. and control of your own mind and your own feelings. I mean, even if the majority of people could do that, just that step alone, I think that would be a game changer because, when you're able to um those are our creative tools at the end of the day. So I find it very interesting that you started there. For someone who maybe doesn't even know that's possible, how would you guide them, in terms of getting from the place of like maybe victimhood because they're in a situation where they have to like go to court or something, and feeling like, feeling that resistance to even being there, to a place where they can even acknowledge that they have the power to do that.
I think it has to start with little steps, tiny little steps of, going back to think about where, the situations in which you might have felt frightened at one stage, or the situations in which you might have felt that it's not possible to do that, to be in control of yourself, that you're not in charge, and then something happens,
Hmm.
and somehow you've got a little bit of control, and that little bit of control gives you that little bit of power that you didn't really ever feel you had. And with that little bit of power, you've actually been able to manufacture a situation where you are in control,
Hmm.
or you're in enough control that you do something that you didn't think you could do before. And with that one step, that's the first step down the road
Hmm.
to do it, to looking at how you can begin to become more in control of yourself. I think everyone has situations. We all have situations in which we are powerful. We all
Hmm.
have situations in which we are timid and scared and lacking in confidence.
Hmm.
When you can identify even small, tiny bits or aspects of your life where you feel powerful, where you feel a bit, not as frightened, not as scary,
Hmm.
not as worried, then you can begin to use those experiences to transmit that to other
Hmm.
experiences.
Yeah, to really
Yeah,
become consciously aware of how those things are connected, right? Like
yeah,
if you're a reactive person, you realize that your thoughts and not having like that mindfulness you talk about as well is actually inflaming a situation or worse. It's interesting. I feel like there's so many world teachers who and authors and things, like some come to mind as like Viktor Frankl's Man's Search for Meaning, giving
yeah,
different meanings to being in bad
yeah,
situations, and that we have
yeah.
this ability to choose our emotional states is something that a lot of teachers um, do talk about. And so for you, are there like practical somatic tools or tools like you talk about? Like obviously you can't make good decisions when you're in like high beta stress compared to like when you're in a more relaxed state. So how do you make that shift from the sympathetic nervous system into the parasympathetic nervous system, for yourself? Like what works best, and how do you kind of guide or coach other people to do that?
What works best for me? I mean, there are a number of things that work best for me. I mean, sometimes I picture being on a beach, or I picture being kind of in palm trees, and I could just see
Nice. Sunny days.
yeah, sunny days, and I could see the waves coming in and out again, washing in and out, and you're just somewhere else. You're in a pleasant place.
Hmm.
You're at a place of calm.
Yeah.
Or I might read something that means something to me, or listen to music that means something to me. Music can,
Hmm.
poetry can, certain places can. Being in a garden, being in a beautiful garden, being in maybe a country where there's just grass and there's plants.
Hmm.
Those sorts of things I know, for me, and maybe for lots of other people, they affect your psychology in some way. You affect your emotions. They affect your how you're feeling. Um, So those are good starts. I mean, sometimes it's deep breathing. Deep
Hmm.
breathing is a good.
Yeah,
That's
the
the
breath is
start.
an entry point to a
Yeah.
lot of the yeah. Okay, well that I mean that's really important, I think. And so it sounds too like this has become a way of being for you, so that if ever you're in a situation where you're say called to give evidence, or it could be like give public speaking. You mentioned public speaking has been a big transformative element for you. Um, is the calm five step, is that something that is part of your being now? Like, is this a practice so that you're when you're in those situations you're just more grounded and present all the time?
I wouldn't say I'm all the time, but I know it's something that I need to continually work on.
Hmm.
Yeah. I know it's I don't. I mean, I can get very, I can get nervous, but I have the ability now to sort of just control it. Just talk to tell myself, stop it,
Hmm.
tell it, stop it, and
Hmm.
just calm down and begin to breathe and think about what I want to see and where I want to be. So it doesn't. It's not perfect,
Hmm.
not by any means at all, but I can manage that situation and I
Yeah.
can manage it in a number of different ways. If I'm in an environment where I know I can get worked up, I can be triggered. I know that I have to sort of calm myself down. There are
Yeah.
things that can happen. There are things going on all around the world that trigger you sometimes. There are unpleasant things, um, and I have to say to myself, no, just don't, because it when it triggers you, you know that
Yeah,
you're being
for sure.
triggered,
For sure.
and you know that when you're triggered, you can't do the things you need to do.
Yeah.
You got to get on to, and you can't relax, and you can't think in the way you want to think because you're
Hmm.
triggered.
Yeah.
So I use that. I use these experiences, and obviously, I not just when I'm doing public speaking. I also run a Facebook group for people, helping people to give evidence.
Okay. Okay,
So
wonderful.
that's one of the things it's just an example of what I say to people. Don't allow yourself to get triggered. Don't drive down the car and someone cuts you up, or you nearly have an accident, and
Yeah.
for the next 5 minutes you want to kill them.
Yeah.
And it takes you to places you don't want to go to. You don't
Yeah.
want to be there. You don't want to be that kind of person.
Hmm.
So you have to think to yourself, no, don't you don't allow it. Yes, you're going to get triggered a little bit every we all do, but
Yeah.
you have to learn to take charge of that. And it's also about the thing that I feel really strongly about is that it's responsibility
Yeah.
as opposed to blame. And we
Yeah.
live in a world that I think loves to blame. We
Yeah,
love to
totally.
blame.
Yeah.
We just don't want to take responsibility. And that's one of my things that can almost trigger me. I have to really work hard on that one, because blame and hate are things that I just think, yeah, those are things, and it never, ever, ever resolves any issues. All
Hmm.
it ever does is causes more hatred. But that's where people are. Not everyone, but unfortunately, too many people are at that. You know, blame and
Yeah.
hatred,
Yeah.
criticism.
It's interesting. One teacher I've learned some pretty powerful things from. I think a lot of people in the world have is Tony Robbins, and actually he was doing a date with Destiny that led me to meeting Julia, and very very much changed my life. And I
Yeah,
like what he says about blame, is like, if you're gonna blame people, blame blame them for blame them also for the good things. Like, so
yeah,
many people will blame their parents for the childhood or whatever, but blame them for all the good things in your life as well. It kind of takes a spin on
yeah,
on blame. And I mean, so much of what you said, and even the acronym CALM leading into mastery, is I like how you're helping people shift from maybe a feeling of disempowerment, reactivity, into one recognizing that they actually have control of their state of consciousness.
yeah,
And so, even like some of them, like listening, being mindful, and mastery, to me, those are all related to meditation. Because to me, I see meditation very simply as our ability to listen very subtly to different levels and layers of the mind and also the body and sensation, and then really becoming aware of what the truth is. And to me, meditation and cleansing our consciousness of these lower vibrational forms are also a pathway to mastery, or another
Yeah.
way of saying true enlightenment, and that's possible for us. I'm curious because there is so many ties there. Is meditation something that you practice as well, or guide people in through your teachings?
It isn't something I guide people in. It isn't. It may become. It may be another tool that's used in the process, but it probably will be something that I have to. I mean, I use affirmations. I do
Hmm.
use affirmations, but I
Yeah,
do use obviously a lot of repetition. Repetition is everything really.
absolutely.
But I haven't used meditation as such. Although there are times when I would say I do kind of pray.
Yeah. There are many
Yeah,
forms of meditation.
yeah,
Certainly, I believe even like, mantras and affirmations are a form of meditation.
yeah,
My favorite form of meditation is just really going into the stillness and silence and keeping it very simple and just learning to really stay present while listening. So yeah, no,
yeah,
I mean, it sounds like that's an avenue for you to explore more deeply, because I
yeah,
see that people who do meditate would definitely relate to a lot of these words. Like there is mindfulness meditation is a very specific form of meditation. And then also that attitude, like, I mean, there's so many kind of aphorisms in our society, and it's very clear to others, sometimes not always ourselves, because we don't always we take ourselves everywhere we go. So we don't always are not always aware of our own presence and our own
yeah,
attitude and how that can affect, the room you walk in. A
yeah,
very different situation when you have someone coming in like a bright sunny day, as you say, or
yeah.
compared to someone who has a big cloud over their shoulder. So how do you help navigate that for, say, someone who is maybe more inclined to a baseline attitude that is negative or reactive? How do you guide them? Because that's a journey to change your set point of emotional, yeah, your general emotional state, right?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, there are different ways, and it depends obviously on that person and how well
Hmm.
I know them. And I think it's also if someone one of the things I suppose it's really important with people is figuring out what they want, what's important to them,
Hmm.
and if so- if say for example doing well at court is important to them, if doing well at court is important to them, then their attitude, their physiology has to change.
Hmm.
It cannot stay the same.
Hmm.
There's you know I have to get that point across to people that
Hmm.
you cannot do achieve the things you want to achieve or you say you want to achieve with that kind of attitude or that kind of physiology where you're kind of just down in the dumps. It's
Hmm.
not going to happen. You have to get out of your comfort zone. You have to be prepared to do things that you don't feel comfortable doing or don't want to do.
Yeah.
Um, Otherwise, you might as well just say, just give up. You
Yeah.
know, you may as well just say, look, I'm not going to do this. Forget it. You know, because there are things you you just have to find ways of achieving. Otherwise, you are going to remain in that same position, which is not a helpful position
Hmm.
to you or anyone else. And
Yeah,
when you're in
absolutely.
that position, you cannot. You know, it might be that it may be that you're feeling really down, but you love your children.
Yeah.
Yeah. So maybe that that's something you use as a as leverage
Yeah.
to help someone to understand that actually not only you harming yourself, but you're harming your child because that's what's the message your child's getting.
Yeah.
How how are they interpreted? And we know that children pick up on the parenting they receive.
Yeah, totally.
They're influenced very much by the parenting they see, especially when they're young.
Yeah.
You're setting the tone for how they're going to look at life, how they address life, how they see themselves in the world, what they see the world is, and how they see their place in the world. You're setting all of that. by your behavior.
Yeah.
So getting them to kind of get an understanding of that. And if not, maybe it's about flipping that onto them looking at their own parenting,
Yeah.
you know, and recognizing that, you know, their parents may have been just like them. So it's kind of helping them to wake up,
Yeah.
helping them to
I see
become much
that.
more aware.
I see that, and
Um,
you've chosen a very specific area that a lot of people would kind of. I mean, it's I remember I've been into a courthouse a few times, and it's like a whole other universe. There's all these in Canada. It's probably I think it's the same in the States, the same kind of system. Everyone's walking around with their black. They look like penguins, and everyone's really
yeah,
serious about themselves, and there isn't a lot of jovial,
yeah,
spirit. It is a very kind of like it's a dense and heavy
yeah,
place. There's a lot, like you said, there's a lot of conflict. So, I really appreciate that you've kind of are bringing that light into these spaces to help, illuminate some of the impacts that people can have from their state of consciousness, from their attitude,
yeah,
and giving them a really easy leverage point to kind of take to awaken to the fact that they are going to create impacts one way or another.
yeah.
And I just want to circle back, Michael, because I think it's really important, and I acknowledge you, to come from 30 years of holding something that clearly was a weight on you, and now using that as a transformative point of wanting to be of service to help others and to prevent even to the extreme of something like that ever happening again. I mean, if you are reaching parents and giving them these tools, you are preventing that kind of harm for coming to children. So I just want to commend you for that. I think that's very
Oh,
important
thank you.
work. Yeah. What is there anything else for we are focused on conscious parents, conscious educators, but as well like entrepreneurs and visionaries, anyone who, sees a higher vision for the world and for themselves as an important tool. What's your higher vision, and what would you like to impart? What would your takeaway message for our audience be?
Well, there's different things. I think my vision in terms of the work that I want to do is that I want to touch millions of people's lives, um, not just in the UK, but around the globe,
Hmm.
because I think there's so many people that don't know. The other thing I would say to you is that it's not just that people don't know how to defend themselves at court and therefore to get the best outcome for themselves and their child, or whatever it is. It might be separation, divorce. Who knows? It could be a number of things because people go to court for all manner of things. But the other thing that I think I need to share is that I think there needs to be more research on what happens to people when they leave court and they haven't got what they wanted.
Hmm.
And I suspect a lot of people leave court feeling really got at,
Yeah.
feeling really abused, feeling really traumatized, and they begin a downward spiral
Hmm. Hmm.
that they don't know how to stop, that they don't know how to get help for, particularly men. I think it happens with women as well, but I think to a greater extent, women support other women and support other people,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
men
Men
uh,
tend to
tend to
hold
hold
their
it.
things.
Yeah, yeah, and
Yeah. Yeah, I would agree with that.
I think that that can lead to people taking their life.
Hmm.
At,
Hmm.
at the one extreme is that people I think will take their life of that.
Hmm.
The other thing that people do is just health and depression, mental health
Yeah. Yeah.
just
Yeah. Big
deteriorates.
impacts for sure.
Yeah, um, and that's not really looked at. I don't think
Yeah.
that's really considered.
Yeah.
Um, and the impact of that on society is a massive one. Let alone for children or your
Yeah.
partner or your friends or family. These are huge things that aren't considered.
Yeah. Yeah. It's
So
fun. It's funny you say that. There's so many, I feel like there is so much work that can go into, shifting paradigms in our society, having more support systems. And I don't think it's just a matter of, governments or whatever throwing money at these problems. I really feel
Mm.
like it's a like you say, it's an inner game. It is a consciousness shift and recognizing the power that we have internally. Sometimes I envision, like I mentioned briefly, the letters. I think that a lot of our legal frameworks are based on understanding of the Bible, and I think that a lot of those dogmatic understandings are just not aligned to truth. And I look
Yeah,
forward to a day where we have compassion in these systems where there are many other examples of indigenous cultures that had practices of restitution and reciprocity and ways that would honor the individual who say makes a mistake and then but brings them back into the society and not segregate and
yeah,
have punitive
yeah,
systems. And this we know where these kind of ideas come from. So yeah, what would you like to see? It sounds like you're developing a support system, so maybe you could let our audience know about where they can find more from you, how they can get a hold of your book and access some of the supports that you're. It sounds like you have a community that you're building
yeah,
around that.
yeah, yeah. That I mean, the community is on. That's on Facebook. It's called
Okay.
Giving Evidence. So
Okay.
anyone who's on Facebook, it's still a public group. I'm still in two minds about whether I let that group go into a private group. But at the moment, it's a public group. It's
Hmm.
free. You just go onto Facebook and type in "giving evidence," and my group should come up. It's a group it's a community to help anyone who needs to give evidence because of,
Okay.
just as you said, how daunting it is, and the skills and attributes and aptitude you need in order to learn to give great evidence,
Yes.
and to take care of yourself and defend yourself at court, because
And
it's sorry,
sorry, I
yeah.
didn't mean to interrupt you. I was just wondering, do you work with folks one on one, or is it like there's a community kind of structure in helping?
I, at the moment it's one on one. I'm looking at a number of different things at the moment. I'm
Okay.
looking at doing courses as well, offering courses for different groups, people who need this. See, I believe there's lots of different people who, I mean, there are professionals who need this work. There
Absolutely.
are parents who need this work.
Yep.
There are people who have been abused who need this work.
Yep.
There are CEOs who need this work. You
Yes.
know, there are a range of people
Hmm.
who need this type of work.
Yep.
Um, so there's a lot of work to be done with a whole range of different groups of people.
Yeah.
Um, there are things that are kind of standard, and there's things that are very specific for certain groups. So I need to get my head around an awful lot of different things that
Mhm.
people need.
Yeah.
Um, but what I was going to say, something else has gone out of my mind now. But there are just many different things that people need to help them. Uh, One of the things that always hits me is this: is that if you're out on the street and someone attacks you, you know what to do.
Mhm.
You can run and hide. You can fight them back. You can call the police. You can get someone's help. Something like that. You're in the
Mhm.
witness box. What do you do?
Mhm.
And don't the truth is you're being attacked. You're just not being attacked physically.
Yeah.
You're being
Yeah.
attacked emotionally and mentally and psychologically.
And like you said, there can be a lot of implications after the fact, and our society is can be blind to some of those wounds. That, and so it sounds like, I mean, to me, it sounds very clear to your why, what pulls you to do this, and I can picture yourself from more than 30 years ago being in that position as a social worker, and now being able to maybe give someone in a similar position those tools so that they can prevent and maybe even prevent the whole ordeal from happening. So
Mm.
maybe you want to talk a little bit about that why, Michael, and then there's something else I want to share with you that might help you on your journey if you're open to me
Yeah.
sharing that with you.
Sure. Yeah. So you want to talk about why I
Yeah,
do it?
what's your why? Like if you can just say like your summer, yeah, like obviously this is intense work, right? You're dealing with people who are coming to you
Mm.
with a lot of problems or probably stressed. I mean, you could be doing something else, but you really honed in on this. So what is that driving force for you?
My why is because I never want to see someone go through what I went through.
Hmm.
I don't. I honestly mean it was. It was. I will tell you this. I've got a brother who died of lung cancer, and that was the most painful thing I've ever seen for myself in my life. I was very close to him,
Hmm.
and he died. But
Condolences.
yeah, thanks. Thank you.
Hmm.
But that experience I had 30 years ago, at that time, it was the worst experience that I've ever experienced. But even then, even with seeing my brother die, it's, it's still pretty close to my worst experience. That's
Hmm.
how bad it was. That experience, I wouldn't really wish on anybody.
Hmm.
It was the most traumatic experience ever.
Yeah, yeah,
And I wouldn't, you can't believe, I couldn't believe it was happening. I honestly could not believe it was happening. I
yeah.
didn't believe that people were so wicked. Now,
Hmm.
for me, when I look back at it now, they weren't being wicked.
Hmm.
That's just what they do.
Yeah, that's the way the
But
system
they
runs.
don't.
Yeah.
Yeah, they don't have any responsibility for
Hmm.
the impact on you.
Hmm. Hmm.
Lawyers, people, attorneys, that they're not interested on the impact on you.
Hmm. Hmm.
They're interested in getting the result that they want.
Yeah, yeah.
You are a you're just what do they call it? Collateral damage.
Yeah. So, and that's part of like why I was asking you, like, what's your higher vision? So, if you even just to make it very specific, like, what do you think would be some of the qualities in a more equitable world, a more compassionate court system? Because things will change over time. Like humanity is going through a large transformation of consciousness on our planet, and I think a lot of people are aware of this. How would you envision it? How do you what are some things you would either take away or add to brighten those
Well,
spaces?
empathy is a huge one.
Hmm.
But you see, it's funny. I've just done a video on it. Empathy, I think, is we all need. This world needs empathy, like it needs air, like it
Mm.
needs water and food. It needs it so badly.
Hmm.
But empathy with discipline,
Hmm. Hmm.
empathy with boundaries,
Hmm.
because I can foresee empathy being abused.
Hmm.
I
Hmm.
can foresee people caring so much about others that they don't actually. I don't. I want to let me be in the court process. The court process is a difficult process, but there should be some kind of understanding, some kind of ability to understand or get into the minds or get into the hearts of people
Hmm.
and recognize that certain things are not are highly detrimental
Hmm.
to them,
Yeah.
and you really have to be. It really has to be a good reason why the people put people through such terrible experiences.
Yeah.
Um, and what I don't, where I don't want empathy to be misused is that there are people out there who don't have any empathy.
Yeah.
They're clever, they're skilled,
Yeah. Yeah. Well,
they're potentially narcissistic.
yeah. Well, I mean, I think that's the definition of a sociopath, right?
Yeah,
Or
exactly.
worse. So, I see your passion, Michael. I can see how you're really a wonderful asset to and an ally to people who are in those situations, which some people don't know they're going to be in those situations often.
Yeah,
So I hope this reaches some folks that they know that you're there if they need it, or if they're in a situation now that it's synchronistically showing up for them. I also, on that note, I wanted to share with you. I mean, I haven't really talked too much online about my experience, but I'm going to share more and more about it because I'm someone who hasn't really been too much online, so to speak. I've been around, but I've never really connected social media. I really value in person community gatherings, but obviously there's power. Like we're across an ocean here, and we're having this
Yeah.
live conversation that's also streaming, to our platforms, which is amazing. And I want to share this with you because I feel like what's unique about you is that you have taken a very important principles in like self-mastery, in mindset, and developing our own inner responsibility, as you say, but you're applying it to a very specific niche. And I think that you might really thrive in a platform that I found recently where we started building our community of Light Heart Vision there. It's on School, Skool. And it honestly, I have found so much authentic, genuine human connection on School. No advertisements. Like I would post heartful things before on other platforms, some of them you mentioned, and I would get like a couple likes and no comments. And I'm like, what? Am I just talking to the breeze? Is people just like I'm being bypassed by ad walls or something? I don't know. But like obviously, I'm not connecting, with people that need to hear a message. So. I'd love to invite you to check it out. I mean, I'll send you an invitation. Yeah,
No,
have you?
no, please. I just well, I started, but I haven't done anything. I
Okay,
literally couple of weeks ago, I I joined school, but I
okay,
literally haven't done anything with it.
okay.
So
Have
yeah,
you
please.
started a community, or are you just
No,
kind of in there? Okay,
I'm
well,
just in.
I'll send you a link to ours, and also what's cool about School, because I know you want to have big impacts, and that requires it requires attention, it requires engagement, it requires community, it also requires resources. And one thing I love about School is they have made a way that people are doing what they're passionate about, like yourself, and they are earning residual incomes month by month, because there's affiliate ways that they found of everyone can be uplifted in School. It's a bit of a learning curve. I've learned a lot, but the resources are there. And to give you an example, I mean, I haven't looked at anybody doing legal frameworks, that kind of support, but I always use this example because I think it's hilarious. There is a guy. Do you know what the have you heard of pickleball before?
No.
Pickleball is like tennis, but it's like a hard ball. Anyways, it's very popular here in North America right now. This guy started a community just teaching people how to play pickleball, and he's making over 30K a month in residual income. And to give you an idea, like one of the schools has gotten to a point where they're making around $400,000 a month. So like there's potential for really focusing on what you're passionate about and giving you the resources, because as you grow, having a team, having the ability to travel, and do all these things to promote your work, if that can be made in fun and finding your audience. And I'm not in any way like funded by School, I'm telling you my direct experience, but
Yeah.
it's really been a place where I found that, because it sounds like that's what you're looking for, is that people who are really there to engage and to create that support network. So it's not just you, because that's why I
Yeah.
asked you. It can be a lot. My background is in Indigenous wellness and social work, and I have been in situations where I've helped mediation with families. I've helped case managers in pretty challenging situations, and also in home care and all kinds of things. Um, and I know it can have impacts. So in my care for you, like I really, my wish is that you have this really beautiful community come and support you, a team that can uplift you in carrying that vision to an audience in a way that uplifts you also. Because I care about that man who was in that courtroom, who went through that terrible experience, and I care about the man that is sitting in front of me right now and has this passionate message to get out. Anyways, so those are my two
Thank you
cents.
so much. Thank
Yeah,
you
you're
so
very
much.
welcome.
Yeah.
Is there anything else you'd like to share at all?
Um, Probably, I probably shared on when I applied where people could contact, could get
Yes,
on.
please let us know. We will certainly put that in all the links of our YouTube as well, so our audience can find you there. But let us know right now, how can people get a hold of you?
Well, people can get hold of me on Instagram. I'm Michael240656.
Okay,
On Facebook, I'm just Michael Watson.
okay,
On LinkedIn, I'm Michael Watson, but also I'm on the Incredible Witness not Incredible Witness newsletter.
Okay. So you have a newsletter as well. Okay.
Yeah. Um, or I've very recently started on YouTube on Family Court Coach,
Okay.
and I am. I think I'm just. I can't remember what I am on Twitter. I'm not Twitter. I am on Twitter, but Family Court Coach on Twitter probably, but I don't use it much. But on um, TikTok, I am on TikTok.
You're all over the place, Michael.
But I don't know
I
what
mean that in a really wonderful way. That's good. That's amazing.
I am on TikTok, but I've only just started.
Okay.
I started. I can't remember
Gotcha.
why. But you get me on Michael Watson on TikTok as
That's
well.
great. And what's the name of your book, Michael?
My book is called Family Court, Giving Evidence in the Family Court.
Okay. And then people can find that. Do you have a
People
website or
can
is that
find it
on
on.
Amazon?
It's on Amazon. Yeah,
Okay.
it's on Amazon.com. People can get that there.
Good thing we don't have to all have to go to the Amazon to get our stuff. It shows up like 12 hours after we order it.
Yeah, yeah, that's right.
Yeah, it's a what a world of change we're all witnessing, eh?
Definitely.
Well,
I think the only thing I know, Randy, the only thing I want to say is that I think I want to reiterate something there because I think it means the world to me, and I think it means it's that important for the world. I think hate and blame and criticism are things that obviously that aren't useful in court.
mhm.
I think they're not useful in terms of relationships. I think they're not useful in life generally, at work or anywhere. And those things I think are highly destructive.
So
And
what do you think are the solutions to those things?
I think it's the antidote to all of that is empathy and love.
Yeah. Yeah.
You don't have to. There, don't get me wrong. There are things I strongly dislike,
hmm
but I choose not to go down the path of hate
Yeah. Yeah.
because hate will consume you and suck you in.
Sure.
And before you realize that you are the very essence of the thing you hated,
Yeah.
you didn't like.
You know, it's
So that balance, yeah.
it's
Sorry.
powerful that you say that. Thank you for shining a light on those powerful solutions. I mean, there's so much to say. You know, it deserves an ongoing conversation,
Yeah,
and really that's why we started this podcast. You know, Lightheart Vision is really sparked from our quest into the unknown, and then when our daughter was born, we had a natural home birth, and her name means light in Italian, and but it always occurred to me that the acronym for Lightheart Vision is love, and to
yeah.
me that's where we all come from. It's where we return, and I mean I don't know if this is true for everyone, but anytime I have felt, I mean I can't even remember feeling that, but I would say that hate always came down to and criticism and blame and all those things always came down to some level of fear.
Mm,
Yeah, and so I'm going to give you an acronym since you gave us a wonderful
yeah,
acronym for calm. Uh, to me, the inspired acronym for fear is feel everything and remember, and that's not
yeah,
always easy to do, especially being through some of the traumatic experiences that we all have been part of, and you've been through some pretty amazing ones that you've used as leverage points to uplift others. But you know, it's through really facing these feelings and remembering that we do have some power that may be hidden or dormant within us that you're reminding us through the calm acronym that's really important to remember that that's there. And so when we do feel alone, like in a witness box, that we can turn into that. And I think you've really given people a really interesting way of remembering something that they can do when they're in a stressful position. Oh yeah, calm, and then kind of review where they're at. So that's wonderful, Michael.
yeah. Thank you so much for having me. Thank you
Yeah,
so much.
thank you. And is there any like you mentioned is like you mentioned having, you know, wanting to be around the world. Are there ways that you're connecting with people in other places? Is it through podcasts mainly that people can listen to you, and obviously through your social connections?
Podcast, social connections. I will be doing more live speeches on stages as well. You know,
Okay,
wherever I
amazing.
can. You know,
Okay,
wherever I can. Um, yeah, in any way that I can get out there, because I just think I have to get out there. I have to get this out there as best. I mean, I'm still the world's best kept secret because I don't
That's
know
wonderful.
anyone really who's doing what I do.
Yeah, it's very specific, and I appreciate
Yeah,
that. I feel like a lot of people are trying to, help everyone, and you've really narrowed it down. And those are those can be very, very painful, and like you said, have huge ramifications for people after their experience. So if they can be better prepared, or can meet you after they've had those to kind of recenter and build up some of those skills. So thank you again for your passion, Michael. Thank you for your work, and we look forward to seeing you grow in your mission.
yeah. Thank you so much.
Thank
I
you.
really appreciate that.